I'm sitting in this spot because I'm trying to create another area to film. I think it's coming together, but it definitely needs something up here. So we're gonna make something to go behind me, and I'm going to use materials I already have. I have this polyfill that I need to use. I have this scrap foam that I got from Joann's. It's pretty thick. I, of course, have all sorts of thrifted fabric that I've gathered together over the years, really. So any of that is fair game. I kind of want it to be flat against the wall, so it will be quilt-like with some three-dimensional aspects. But like, enough talking, let's actually do it. So to start, I think I'm going to just start sewing some fabric together. I was playing yesterday with red fabric, which is something I always do. So what do we think of this? I kind of hate it, so we're not going to use it. I think these reds are really pretty, so I am going to actually cut here and separate them. And I'm going to make checkerboard fabric out of this. So what we need is to layer them. And I just want 2 squares or rectangles. So I'm just gonna layer them and cut a rough square. Turn. This doesn't have to be exact by any means. We're just kind of rolling with what we got. Then I'm gonna trim here. So now we have these 2 square pieces, and I'm just going to lay them out one on top of the other. And then I'm going to cut strips. You want these strips to be roughly the same size. You don't have to like get out a measuring tape. You just want them to be kind of similar. We're going for sisters, not twins. Then what I'm gonna do is lift these up and just rotate every other one so that you get a little striped pattern. And I'm going to pick them up. I'm gonna turn them so the outsides of the fabric are touching. See how these are the pretty sides and they're touching now? And I'm gonna sew down one side. This is what that looks like once you sew it together. I'm just gonna repeat that process for these other strips. So now we have like several of these pieces, and I'm just going to lay them out to where they're alternating in a stripe pattern. And before we sew these together, we wanna check and make sure that the first stripe and the last stripe in this row are different colors. That's important. So if they're not, add a stripe or something, but you should be good. So now, because the first and the last are different colors, I'm gonna sew all of these strips together in the same way as before, just flipping them right sides together and sewing. I'm gonna work off this piece, so I'm just gonna set it down, make sure the stripes are aligned correctly, flip it over, and sew it together. So now we have a little stripey moment, but we're not done yet. So what we're gonna do is take it and turn it so that the stripes are going away from us. And we're going to make sure that it's roughly a rectangle. So because these edges are jutting out, I'm gonna trim this in a somewhat straight line. So what I'm doing next is I'm cutting strips that are roughly the same size that I cut before. We just want the same width. It doesn't have to be perfect. Drink every time I say it doesn't have to be perfect, but I mean it. And then we're gonna take the strips and we're gonna rotate them. Every other one. And you can see the checkerboard pattern start to form. It's really cool. So take one strip, flip it, and sew it together. We're not gonna worry too much about these little points matching because this is improv, it's not gonna match all the time. You can see that checkerboard, it's so good. These colors are so pretty. I love the mix of textures in this. The velvety fabric with the hoodie material, so good. I'm just going down the line, making sure that it's lined up properly. I'm sewing a little bit, taking my time and lining it up, and then sewing, adjusting, and sewing. So I've been thinking about what I want this piece to look like. I have the checkerboard that I made. I think I want to make a patchwork tube. I've done this before, and it's really fun. And I thought maybe I could make a long tube and then like spiral it in on itself and kind of sew it together. So let's do that. In order to make a patchwork tube, I basically want to have something about this width, but I need it to be much longer. So I'm just gonna take fabric pieces, trim them, and start sewing. My goal with this is to keep it the same width along the tube. So that means there's gonna be a lot of trimming, but that's okay. I cut across here. I like this piece a lot. So basically I'm just lining that up where I want it to be, cutting it to match, and then I'm going to flip it over and sew it together. Okay, pretty cool. We need another trim. I'm gonna cut these edges off. What other scraps do I have? When you're making a quilt, it's really important for things to lay flat. But when you're making something three-dimensional, it's not as important because it's three-dimensional. So it'll have shape. And if it juts out at a certain spot because it's not perfectly aligned, then that's honestly fine. What I mean by that is basically this piece doesn't really lay flat. It kind of has a curve to it, if you can tell, but we like that. I know right away I'm gonna cut into this. What if I added this first? I'm gonna flip this and sew it together. So I think I want to add this piece here, add that unit to here, and then add my checkerboard because I don't want them to be the same color. I am going to have to cut it. Then I'm gonna add the checkerboard. This is looking cute. I am gonna add a little bit more fabric on one end because I want it to be long enough. I don't want it to be a short one. I'm thinking of adding this piece that I made earlier in the center. I know I said I hated it, but maybe it'll work here. Again, we're thinking in three-dimensional, so I'm not gonna trim it exactly right away, but I am going to sew this piece down. Now we really have something to work with. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna cut things in a straight line, but I am gonna trim them so it's one continuous line. So I'm gonna trim off these little edges, and this will make sewing it together a lot easier. And for this one, I'm gonna do a really big half circle. So now we have this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it and flip it right sides together, and I'm just gonna sew all the way down the whole tube. So you can see I sewed from here to here. I'm gonna skip a little bit, make sure it's lined up, and then start a little bit further down. So again, I'm just sewing quite a ways. I'm just gonna skip a little bit and then continue sewing. I'm just taking my time and making sure that the edges are lined up, and then I'm catching both sides of the fabric so that I don't miss anything. So now you're left with something like this. And what I'm gonna do is start at one end and just turn it inside out. Oh, this is gonna be so pretty, so good. So now what we're going to do is just stuff it with polyfill. This is gonna take a minute, and that's okay. Fluff it up a little bit, and then fluff it up, stuff it. To see how I've stuffed this part, and I left that little gap, so stuffing the next section is actually really easy. It's helping to just do a little bit at a time. This is what it's looking like. You're probably thinking, what is this man doing? I have a vision, and I think it's going to be really cool. So for this section, this is where that little circular portion was. So it's gonna be a little wider, so I'm gonna put plenty of stuffing in this section. I can't believe I've almost used that whole bag of polyfill. Crazy. You're thinking, oh no, he ran out of polyfill. Guess again. I have enough. So now I'm going to take my red thread and my needles, and I'm going to hand stitch this guy closed. I'm gonna do this part off camera, and then we'll be back for the final kind of formation. So we have our little tube. I love how it turned out. I think it's really cool. My idea this whole time has been some sort of like spinning it on itself type of thing. I think that looks really cute. Maybe something like that. My epiphany came though when I realized I need a backing. So I'm gonna make one really quick out of this foam. So basically I'll cover this backing in fabric, and then I'll have something to attach it to. So I'm gonna approximate how much foam I'm gonna need. I want this part to kind of hang off the foam. And then this foam you just cut. You can kind of rip it a little bit. I think it'd be cool if this was a little bit more of an organic shape than just a square. So I'm gonna make it a little wavy, a little bit like that. Let's see here, will this work? Yes. I'm gonna use the back of this other hoodie as the other piece of fabric. Just gonna lay that down, and then I'm going to lay this shape we cut face down on this piece, making sure all the edges are overlapping. Looks like a jelly bean. Then what we're gonna do is take these two pieces of fabric and sew them together, leaving a little gap so we can turn it out and stuff our square in here. I'm taking my time and aligning everything properly, adjusting and sewing. As I'm nearing the end here, I'm gonna leave a little gap. Okay, I left that little gap, and so we're gonna turn this inside out, our little bean. To get this in here, I'm going to crunch it up. There's no right way to do this, you just have to do it. Squish. So we have no shortage of polyfill, and what I like to do is just kind of go around and push it in the edges here, and then I like to make sure that it's level with the piece of foam that we put in, because I'm wanting to create that shape that we cut out. I'm gonna fluff and just kind of shove it and make these corners curved. Okay, it's looking good. So we're gonna lay that down, and we've got to decide how we want this shape to be. I love the way that this looks. So what I'm gonna do is do some hand sewing, and I'll show you the final reveal. I think it's so good. It's really shiny in person, and I love that we took this tube and kind of manipulated it, and I think it'll look so cool right here. Let's hang it up. It definitely needs to go down here. What about right here? Okay, I think this is cute. The reds match. I'll remind you what it looked like before. I think it looks really cute in the frame, and it's a really good funky texture in the background. I love making fiber art, and I love taking you guys along for the ride. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Make sure and subscribe to my channel because I post sewing videos like this all the time, and I'll catch you in the next one.